I'm Steve Croft. Picture a no man's land with broken windows, dark abandoned buildings, no law and order. There are carefully demarcated areas controlled by rival bands of armed militia fighting over the rubble. Nearly every night there's sniper fire. It sounds like Beirut, but in fact it's America, a creature of state, local, and federal government, the product of bad politics, failed policy, and official neglect. It exists unseen except by those who live there, a stone's throw away from some of the most valuable real estate in our nation's third largest city. What's it like here? What's the neighborhood like?
Like a bad neighborhood.
Dangerous?
Yes.
Can you tell when somebody's going to shoot?
Yes. They just grab their gun and just start shooting.
10-1 and 10-1, 116-1.
One time they came over this way, and then they saw this lady, and she said something to them, and then she had a big hole in her head when they killed her.
They shot her?
I don't know what they did.
Did you see her?
Yes.
How often do you hear gunshots?
Too often.
Johnny Shannon is 10 years old. He lives within walking distance of Chicago's Gold Coast, but it's several worlds away. His home is Cabrini Green, a name at once both saintly and sylvan. It is neither.
When I first came here, it reminded me of Vietnam.
It's been called a city within a city, the most notorious public housing project in America. Dennis Davis patrols it for the Chicago police.
Drive straight through.
Built in the 40s and 50s, it was supposed to provide safe, inexpensive, integrated housing for people trying to save money to buy a house. Today, it's 70 acres of no man's land, void of legitimate enterprise, with its own laws and its own language.
Now, this building is called The Rock.
The Rock?
Yeah, The Rock.
Why do you call it The Rock?
It's like the Rock of Gibraltar. You know, it's there, you can't get to it, and it's the strongest thing in Cabrini. There's normally a sentry. He's standing right there in front of 1150 now.
What's he looking for?
Police. They're selling drugs from the lobby. He will see us when we make the turn, and if they're dealing, he'll just walk away into the building. And once they get into the building, that's it. We won't find them.
Cabrini is part of the worst public housing system in the country. So bad that 2 years ago, the federal government threatened to take it over. The Chicago Housing Authority doesn't even know who lives in its buildings, but 100,000 people are waiting to get in. The only structure is provided by the gangs, who marked their turf with spray paint and set up sniper posts in high-rise buildings. The working poor Cabrini was designed for have long since fled, leaving the desperate alongside the helpless.
And I don't give a damn how hard you try to teach your kids to walk a straight line. The game bangers are the role model for these children in this neighborhood.
60% of the households here are headed by single women. Patricia Welch is one of them, trying to raise 3 boys. 2/3 of Cabrini's residents are children. What's it like living here?
Hell.
Why hell?
Because you don't know if a bullet gonna come through your window. You don't know while you're going to the store if you're gonna be shot at, or your children be hurt in any kind of way.
When was the last time they were shooting here?
Well, my building last night.
Do you think your mother worries about you living here?
Yes.
Why?
Because when you go outside, there's bad things happening out there.
What's the closest you've ever come to getting hurt by the gangbangers?
Well, one time I was playing in the playground. They just started shooting back and forth.
What do you do when you hear shooting?
I run.
We're in a battle. We're in a battle with the gangs for those youngsters.
Bob Martin heads the Chicago Intervention Network, a city agency that works with gangs.
We have what we call marginal youth, or what some gang members call trophies.
Why trophies?
They are children that are born out of wedlock. that the fathers oftentimes brag about how many youngsters they have, how many sons they have, and the code word for son is trophy. That is the next wave of gang members coming up. And when you hear gang members say, "You'll never stop the gangs," you can't stop us. We are a nation. That's what they're referring to.
When you think of Cabrini, you can look right out my window and see it. It's only 6 blocks, but it's a cancer that can spread into every neighborhood in the city of Chicago.
Cabrini first gained notoriety in 1981, when then Chicago Mayor Jane Byrne briefly took an apartment there.
I'm going to straighten out project living in this city, because by allowing it, we can harm the whole city, and I'm not going to have it.
By most accounts, Byrne spent 1 or 2 days a week there for 6 months, and then Cabrini once again fell into neglect. Today, the Housing Authority is $30 million in debt. The building codes are not being enforced, and the elevators, when they work, are called the most dangerous form of public transportation in Chicago.
Do the gangs control the elevators?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they can control them. At one time, they, as a matter of fact, they were hiding up here. And if a young lady got on the elevator, they would jump down and, do what they wanted to do to her. They used to hide guns up there.
This is 11.
That's 11?
Right.
Okay.
It's pretty dark out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And see, that's another thing about these elevators, because you never know what's going to happen when the door opens.
Just watch my back.
Where'd he get shot?
Well, he probably got shot somewhere around here.
Last year, 200 people were shot or stabbed in Cabrini. 8 violent crimes for every 100 people.
How long ago did he get shot?
Oh, just a real short time ago. He was shot by some fellows across the way here as he crossed the field.
Did you know this kid?
Oh, yeah, for about 4 years.
In 5 years, Brother Bill Tomes has seen 65 of his friends shot or stabbed. He's an emissary from the Archbishop of Chicago, a peacekeeping force of 1 who roams Cabrini at night, helping women and children negotiate the free fire zones.
Are you trying to save souls here?
No, we're trying to show God's love for people.
You're trying to keep people alive.
Oh, I think we're trying to keep people alive, yeah.
Those are pretty low expectations.
Oh, I don't know. To keep somebody alive.
Brother Bill, y'all be cool, man. Y'all be careful.
Most of the kids, for example, have been shot. Almost all of them have been shot.
Yeah, it's my brother. They killed my brother.
Is sudden violent death just sort of accepted here, something that happens?
Well, it's expected to happen in this kind of environment, and you never know when it's going to. It could be right now.
In fact, it was 15 minutes later. Brother Bill and the paramedics were called to attend to a stabbing victim. But they failed to achieve their modest goal.
Very serious. We gotta get out of the way. Stay out of the way. Stay out of the way. We gotta get out of here.
Is my child alive?
Wait, I'll tell you now.
I want to know. I want to know. My God.
Her son died in the elevator.
God.
Who controls this area? Does the police control it?
Yeah, we control it. Yes.
You're serious?
I'm serious.
I believe the gangs are in control of Cabrini. And anytime they nickname the plaza area as a shooting gallery, then I don't think the police or CHA management is in control of the property.
That assessment comes not from some alderman or candidate running for local office, but from the latest director of the Chicago Housing Authority, Vincent Lane.
We've talked to residents at different housing projects in Chicago who describe the buildings they live in or the projects that they live in as the graveyard, the DMZ, death row, Beirut.
That's right.
Accurate descriptions?
Accurate descriptions. With the one exception today, and that's at a building, 2417 West Adams.
When I got in here, I was so thrilled about the apartment. 2 bathrooms, 4 big bedrooms, roomy. I could fix it up like a home, you know.
When Evelyn Walker first moved to 2417 West Adams, she thought she'd died and gone to heaven. But that was before she found out it was called the graveyard, and with good reason.
And I mean, a lot of bullets come in. I'm not talking about 1 or 2 bullets.
Into the apartment?
It was attacked from every angle. One day it might be the back. Next day it might be the front. Sometimes it'd be from back and front.
What did you do to try and protect yourself?
Well, we stopped eating at the dining room table, for one thing. We got a big closet in the back. We stayed in that closet basically when shooting would occur. My children were actually trained like maybe men would be in the service to take cover, hit the floor.
Using it at 4 o'clock in the morning.
I just came over.
That was before Vince Lane and the Chicago Housing Authority announced a plan to take the projects back from the gangs, with police sweeps, security gates, and ID checks. The first step was to get rid of the squatters. Federal agents and Chicago police forcibly removed anyone who wasn't on the Housing Authority's list.
Who's Deion Wilson?
That's me.
Who's Calvin Gibson?
That's me. You want to go check the school?
It's really no different than when you and I were in school, where 2 or 3 bullies controlled the whole classroom. I proposed to turn that around. I want to give the residents the support so that they can throw the bullies out.
You've got security people all over the building now.
Well, that's for now. That's for now. But what about when security leaves?
Do you think security's going to leave?
I think security is going to leave eventually.
I admire your confidence, but I think you need to note that you are the 8th person to have this job in the last 5 years.
There were a lot of employees when I got here said I wouldn't last 3 months.
How long have you been here?
6 months.
That was in December, and Vince Lane is still there. But there are some, including the Urban League and the Mayor's Advisory Council, who believe the solution to high-rise ghettos like Cabrini Green may be to level them. The only hope for kids like Johnny Shannon, escape.
What are you going to do if the gangbangers come up to you and say, we want you to join?
I'll tell them no.
What if they insist?
I'll still tell them no. I won't join.
Would you like to live somewhere else?
Yes.
Where would you like to live?
In Beverly Hills.
In Beverly Hills. Why in Beverly Hills?
Because it's like no violence.
There are kids that are savable in the Cabrini Green area who want to get out of the gangs, but they say, what do I do? Where do I go? You got to have a dream to turn your life around, to shoot for something. How are you going to dream if you haven't seen anything?
Just had a gang fight between members of the 500 West Oak Building and the 11 and 1700 Main Street.
Now a Chicago story. For many years, officials there, like their counterparts all over the country, have been trying to curb violence and crime in public housing projects. Elizabeth Brackett reports on their latest attempt.
Senque Selvi has a short walk to school every morning. But as Senque winds his way through the tall buildings of the Cabrini Green Housing Project, he faces more than most 10-year-olds do on their way to school.
I gotta walk down the long way instead of walking the short way, because you never know, if somebody can shoot you with a bullet, and a bullet don't got no eye. I know this boy who got shot, who went to Jenner, 2 more boys, I think, Anthony Felton and Roosevelt. I don't know his last name, but Laquita Ellis got shot too. It's like you gotta be careful to walk to school in Cabrini Green.
Last fall, Senque lost another classmate to a sniper's bullet. 7-year-old Dontrell Davis was shot in the head as he walked hand in hand with his mother across the parking lot from his building to Jenner School. Senque's mother and other mothers at Cabrini now shudder when they send their children off to school.
Yeah, I pray every morning, before they get ready to go to school, we get on our knees and we pray.
Dontrell was the 3rd Jenner grade school student killed by gunfire this year. His death quickly became a symbol of the escalating urban violence that cities seem to be unable to control. Chicago Mayor Richard Daley.
What we see is, unfortunately, the wanton violence, the whole total disregard of human life by gang and drug dealers. And it's almost to be declaring a war. That's where we are, really, declaring a war against the gang dealers and drug dealers and gang bangers in our city and our nation. We have to. We have a war here, and we have to go after them the same way they go after innocent people.
Daley and Chicago Housing Authority Chief Vince Lane vowed to take back Cabrini Green from the shooters, the snipers, and the gangs. 1 week after Dontrell Davis's death, the housing project was inundated with hundreds of police officers, city workers, and construction crews. Entrances to all buildings were secured and locked. Residents now have to walk through metal detectors and show IDs to get into previously unlocked buildings.
Before, this building was open 24 hours, 7 days a week. Anybody could come in here, drive up, walk off the sidewalk, come in here, get in the elevator, do anything they wanted. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Now it's more secure?
That's the key. You have to have security.
Controlling violence in public housing is a problem plaguing cities across the country. But a recent federal report called Chicago's crime problems the worst in the nation. The concentration of high-density high-rises, plus well-organized gangs, means gangs can virtually control the projects here. Sick of the killing and the drugs, many residents welcomed the new security measures.
Considering how bad it's been over here, in a way I kind of understand why they got so many police over here and whatnot. Try to straighten out things, straighten the buildings out, keep all the trouble, keep all the drugs and stuff out.
And when the police all leave, do you think it will be different?
Yeah, I think it will. I don't know how long it's gonna last, but hopefully it'll be safe around here for a pretty long time.
There have been many efforts to curb the violence in the 70-acre Cabrini Green project that sits just to the west of Chicago's Gold Coast and only 2 miles from downtown. Mayor Jane Byrne moved into Cabrini Green in 1981 in an effort to focus attention on the security needs at the project. The latest effort is the biggest. The city will spend $500,000 to seal off 4 buildings, conduct apartment-by-apartment security sweeps in the remaining 30 buildings, and expand social services. Vince Lane told Cabrini residents this time they too must get involved.
You all have had to duck and dodge bullets long enough. I don't want to go to any more funerals for babies. I don't want to go to any more funerals for anybody. Not when they're funerals because someone has been killed in a violent manner. You all have to take advantage of the moment. Come out of your apartments, start working with each other, with the organizations that service Cabrini, and let's throw the bad guys out. And some of those bad guys, you know as well as I do, are your friends and relatives.
These 3 was together.
On the street, there was no doubt that the heat was on. On the day of the security sweep, 15 police officers went after these young men after a report that a gun had been found nearby.
Let me tell you something. The minute you leave here, you go straight over to that ID center and get processed, okay? If I see you again out here and you ain't got processed, I'm gonna lock you up.
When I gotta get the lease out the house.
You need that.
Some residents complained that the metal detectors and constant checks made them feel more like they were in prison than at home.
I think it's kind of being overdone, I mean, it's all well and done, but they secure the building and searching the vacant apartment, but, it's ridiculous being searched coming in and coming out.
How many times have you been searched today?
About 4 times. Just trying to walk with my mother while she getting her identification and just trying to get in the building and get something to eat for lunch. Just ridiculous. I know I couldn't slip nothing in and out that quick.
You can't even go in your own building without showing the ID and somebody coming to sign you in.
South Africa somewhere, ain't it? Like you're in a concentration camp, ain't it?
Community activist Marion Stamps has been working with Cabrini's children for over 20 years. She says the new security measures are not the way to go.
You had to see the police in 3 and 4 buses and and all the cars. I mean, the buses looked like tanks, right? They came in our community like they was going to Desert Storm. That's no way to treat us. They treating us like everybody in this community killed that baby. And that's no way to treat us.
The crackdown has brought complaints. The American Civil Liberties Union has sued the Housing Authority, saying security sweeps violate tenants' rights to be free from unreasonable search and seizure and their right to privacy.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Miss Jessica. Okay, but number one, I don't have no drugs. This is a drug-free house, okay? Okay, we're so when you come in here, I don't want my house all rumbled up and tore up and disarray.
But police official Sherwood Williams, who heads up the division charged with securing Cabrini, says the ACLU lawsuit prevents police from being as effective as they could be.
Police can't go into these occupied apartments and search. That'd be a violation of the rights. Even with the emergency inspections conducted by CHA management team, they only can make a cursory type of observations in the apartments. So if I'm a gangbanger and I know the police's hands is tied as far as coming in occupied apartments and so forth, we can take them guns and hide them in drawers and closets and so forth.
These are the young men who are the targets of the massive effort by the police and the Housing Authority. But now even the gang leaders say the killing must stop. These men of the Cobra Nation were out putting up flyers calling for an end to the drugs and the guns. They say even before Dontrell Davis's death, gang leaders had come together and called for a truce. Dave Mack says after burying 4 brothers, he knew it was time to stop.
We was destroying. I mean, you can look at the crime. It was black killing black. I'm telling you, if you really look at it. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't no white person coming over here killing us. You know what I'm saying? We was killing our own people, and it's time to stop. You know what I'm saying?
How did you get people together who had been shooting each other?
You know, it was just, you know, but it was just time for them to unite. You know what I'm saying? They wanted to cause a Dontrell. You know, cause this something that's supposed to be in focus. We realized that we were destroying our nationality from our future youth. You know, we want to get that to them because we feel as though, you know, the young brothers and sisters growing up, you know, deserve to, you know, to have more than what we had. And that's, you know, we're trying to get this to them.
Crime has dropped at Cabrini Green since Dontrell Davis's death. There were no murders and only 2 shootings in the 3 weeks after the security sweeps began. The head of the Chicago Police Department, Matthew Rodriguez, says it is more likely that it was the new security measures, not a gang truce, that calmed the projects.
If they choose to take credit for that, that's up to the gangs. My evaluation of a truce would be quite a distance in the future, and basically, you know, I don't put a whole lot of stock in it. At the same time, in this city, back in the 1920s, we saw other organized criminal activity, other criminal gangs who also purportedly entered into truces, and the truce never seemed to be long-standing. So, based on history, there is nothing for me to take a great comfort from.
No matter what has made the difference, security efforts or a gang truce, Sanque Salvi says it is not quite as scary to walk to school now. But Sanque and his classmates, like most everyone at Cabrini, wonder if it will last.
I think it'll get better, like, if they like they have police on the street 24 hours a day, like they see any gang members walking down the street, they can like tell them to go somewhere else. If they don't, they could arrest them.
I don't think this neighborhood is going to get better. I think afterwards, when they get finished with the buildings and everything, fixing them around, getting all the cocaine and drug pushers out, it's going to be the same way again. And that people are going to start doing it over again. And then the people, police and everything, are not going to do nothing about it. They're just going to keep letting it happen. And this neighborhood is going to stay the same.
The effort to make life safer for Cabrini's children has been massive. But poverty is still the basic, intractable problem here. The shooting at Cabrini may have stopped for the moment, but at home, Cinque Salvi must still deal with a bleak, roach-infested apartment. There is little furniture, few clothes, no books. Afraid of the violence outside, his 28-year-old mother rarely leaves her apartment. The television is her main contact with the outside world. Vince Lane says children like Cinque Salvi may survive here, but they will not thrive unless basic changes are made in public housing.
As long as we sit here with 90% of the residents on welfare, huddled in these tiny boundaries, we're going to have problems.
Solving those basic structural problems will take a lot longer than installing metal detectors and running security sweeps. But Vince Lane says Chicago has begun to try. He says the legacy of Dontrell Davis demands no less.
Finally tonight, essayist Clarence Page of the Chicago Tribune offers some ideas about a Chicago housing project called Cabrini Green.
Architecture is a big deal in Chicago. You can tell by our skyline. Architectural giants like Louis Sullivan, Frank Lloyd Wright, and Mies van der Rohe planted themselves on this prairie and built their own mountains. Some others built their own mistakes, like this one, the Cabrini Green Public Housing Complex. In many ways, a high-rise ghetto plagued with crime, joblessness, fear, and despair.
You can't blame all of Cabrini Green's problems on the architecture, of course, but this place did teach urban planners an important lesson the hard way. High-rise buildings might work for the elderly, but they don't work for large families. We all make mistakes. Unfortunately, in this case, a lot of large families with small children have to live with the consequences.
When gang-related gunfire killed 3 children here in less than a year, the city seemed to be shaken for a change out of its usual snooze. Suddenly everyone wanted to do something. But what? St. Louis used dynamite to blow up its high-rise ghetto, Pruitt-Igoe, in 1972. A lot of Chicagoans would like to do that to Cabrini Green, although that possibility frightens Cabrini Green residents. This is our home, they say. Where will we live? Downtown, at the newspaper where I work, the editors came up with an unusual idea, an architecture contest to redesign Cabrini Green. It was, at best, an unusual idea, maybe even a wacky idea. But a similar contest in 1922 produced Tribune Tower, the newspaper's landmark neo-Gothic headquarters, with its flying buttresses, its bell tower, and its gargoyles. Just the thing to keep evil spirits out of our journalism.
This time would be different. This time there would be no prize money or construction guarantee. The ideas would be their own reward. The question was, would anyone care?
Someone did. More than 300 entries came in from around the world. There were traditionalists who reinvented Cabrini Green as a classic suburban-style housing development. There were modernists who recreated Cabrini Green as a garden of giant bulb-shaped structures and igloos, like something out of a Star Trek movie. There were deconstructionists who tried to break all the rules, rounding off corners, squaring circles, and slashing across it at every odd angle imaginable. Interesting, innovative, but would you want to live here? No, said the postmodernists. The retro crowd turned back the clock to something familiar enough to warm an old city dweller's heart, classic Chicago-style neighborhood flats. Others were content to simply make a statement and nothing more. This one, with handguns floating ominously outside the window of a child with a blood-red doll, speaks powerfully, like a rap tune. A modest yet painfully sincere effort turns out to have been submitted by 2 Cabrini Green residents, young girls aged 12 and 13. Among their recommendations, stop signs at an intersection because many children have been struck by cars here. This place, a very bad drug building. They ask that somebody build townhouses on this site. It's a call for action mixed poignantly with a cry for help. The judges, who included one Cabrini Green resident, asked other residents what they wanted. Their answers were not fancy or exotic. They wanted what most other Americans want, they said, a comfortable home and a neighborhood that works.
We did not have showers. We did not have enclosed closets and things. We did not have ceiling fans, you know.
What do you think your neighbors need more than anything else?
To cooperate, like, so the buildings could stay clean instead of filthy all the time.
What would you tell people who don't know Cabrini Green if you had a chance?
Come in with a positive attitude and you will find that Cabrini Green will be a very enjoyable place.
It was that kind of vision, in the end, basic old-fashioned notions of home and neighborhood, that captured the judges' hearts too. 3 winners were chosen. This one came from Fargo, North Dakota, of all places. Still, it scored big. Like the other 2, it reconnected the projects with the nearby neighborhood, making Cabrini Green seem more like a neighborhood too. This winner, by a Chicago team, took that idea a step further by reintegrating stores, jobs, and middle-class families into Cabrini's community. This winner, by a Belgian designer who had never been to Chicago, takes a bold step ahead into the past. Playfully, it reimagines the boxy and sterile regimentation into a medieval-style village, complete with a green forest running through it like a river. Once you have seen what it could be, Cabrini Green doesn't look so hopeless. Its problems don't look so impossible to solve if only we put our minds to it and put our ideas to work with action. The future of our cities rests on our ability to reclaim neighborhoods like this. A pioneer Chicago architect once said, "Make no small plans." Perhaps today we should add, "Seek no small remedies." I'm Clarence Page.
They're finally tearing down Cabrini Green. For decades, the red and white tenements near downtown Chicago have been a blot on the skyline, the nation's most infamous public housing project, synonymous with gangs, drugs, misery, and murder. And Cabrini Green is just the beginning. The plan is to replace all of Chicago's projects with beautiful new mixed-income developments. That means rich and poor living side by side. So what do you get when you take the country's most disadvantaged families, add in some young professionals, and build them a brand new neighborhood? Chicago is finding out. The experiment is already underway. It started with a bang and a round of applause. All over Chicago, they're tearing down the cinder block dinosaurs known here simply as the projects. They've been a disaster, with generations of children raised in the squalor, but no more. By the end of 2009, all 53 of Chicago's public housing high-rises will be gone. It's the largest demolition of public housing in the nation's history. It will uproot some 40,000 people, many of whom have never lived anywhere else but public housing. People like Larry Sargent. What'd you think when you heard that the city was going to tear down your building?
I was glad.
But you were to lose your home.
I'd rather sleep on a cardboard box in the streets rather than keep going through what I was going through.
In Cabrini Green?
Yes, a child at 12 and 11 years old with a gun, you know, you don't know where you might get it from.
Larry Sargent grew up in Cabrini Green, but when he took on sole custody of his baby son, he knew he had to break the cycle and get out. He never imagined that out might mean this, a brand new $70 million development just 100 yards from Cabrini Green. It's called Northtown Village, 261 condos and townhomes that represent one of the most daring concepts in public housing today. 79 families will have the chance to move out of Cabrini Green and move in here next to someone who bought one of these brand new homes at market rate. A 3-bedroom, top-of-the-line townhome like that costs nearly $500,000. The identical unit next door could be reserved for a Cabrini Green family whose rent is subsidized by the government. The project started 2 years ago with a complex mix of public and private funding. The man on the ground was Peter Holston, an idealistic developer selling this vision of gentrification with a twist.
So here's someone coming in and buying a $500,000 townhome, and we're telling him in the sales trailer, or her,
that you will be living, the townhome next to you, which is no different than yours, is going to have a Cabrini Green family in it.
Basically someone who's gotten it for free.
Basically, yeah. And these people are not turning away. They're buying them.
Mark and Amanda Tomlinson bought one. Young professionals, and just engaged then, they stopped by the sales trailer the day it opened.
And I told her for kicks, bring the checkbook, and it was just a feeding frenzy in there. I mean, everybody was just screaming and yelling, and there's one lady in there that
just yelling at her husband, just buy whatever is available. It doesn't matter what it looks like, just buy whatever's left.
The Tomlinsons bought this 3-bedroom townhouse on the spot. Incredibly, all the units sold before they were even built. But why would anyone invest in a neighborhood like this? Because Cabrini Green and now Northtown Village sit just a mile away from Chicago's ritziest strip.
There's tons of shops, great stores, restaurants, and we've already seen huge big box retailers coming in.
you just got to realize you go 2 blocks one way, we're in the middle of a public housing. We go 2 blocks another way, we're at Banana Republic. So
finding buyers was easy. The hard sell was convincing public housing residents to apply. Peter Holston found that out when he made his pitch to a skeptical crowd at this town hall meeting at Cabrini Green.
We have 2 parks. In the unit 1 park will have a tot lot, and the other park will have like a splash fountain.
Cabrini residents, already angry about being pushed out, thought Peter Holston's offer sounded too good to be true.
Where are the units that are ready right now?
These people are amazed. They're waiting to get taken advantage of. They're waiting to get screwed. They're waiting to, like, something go wrong.
So they're sitting there the whole time saying, what's the catch?
Exactly. Exactly.
And the catch is?
There isn't any. The catch is follow the building rules and enjoy yourself in a wonderful brand new home.
But for many coming from the chaos of Cabrini Green, the building rules are barrier enough. On top of the obvious, no drugs, no loitering, no loud music, there's perhaps the hardest expectation of all, that they fit in with their wealthy neighbors. For Larry Sargent, it all seemed overwhelming. Did you think you had a shot?
Not really. You know, the way it was described as mixed incomes and, you know, it's going to be condominiums and townhouses and coach houses. I'm like, I'll just check it out, you know.
But to get into Northtown Village, Larry Sargent and the other applicants would have to pass a screening process so tough that many people simply dropped out. There's a home inspection, a criminal background check, and mandatory drug tests.
Let's just say there's some addiction issues or violence issues or something like that. You're going to have to fix it.
At the time, Candace Howell was a vice president at Peter Holston's development company. She was in charge of the screening process.
We're looking for things, red flags like criminal behavior against property, criminal behavior against people, guns, drugs, convictions. Because we're not miracle workers.
With that in mind, you might think Larry Sargent's past would disqualify him from landing a spot at the new development. He spent his youth trying to escape all that was wrong with Cabrini Green, joining the Army at 17 to get away. But after 6 years, he ended up right back where he started and spent the last 15 years struggling with drug addiction. But when Northtown Village held its first orientation meeting, Larry Sargent was one of the first to arrive.
Our role, our goal, is to try to identify the things that's going to stop you from succeeding and help you move through those things, right?
Candace Howell made it clear from day one, Northtown Village would be nothing like Cabrini Green. She literally gave lessons on how to get along there.
You get good neighbor training. How do I go out there and be a good neighbor? You know, I mean, maybe some people don't need to know how to do that, but when you've been like watching out your door and wondering who's next door, you know, for all the time you've been in public housing, you might not want to go be no good neighbor. Am I saying that you're going to go out there and set up barbecue grills with the folks next door? Not necessarily so.
We're going to have a bunch of social events, and we're going to push it, push the concept of building a community.
Sherry Wade was desperate for a safer community. A run of bad luck landed her at Cabrini Green 8 years ago. For her 2 youngest children, Travis, 12, and Jamila, 9, the projects have been a prison. To keep them safe, Wade says, she keeps them indoors.
Kids are supposed to go outside and play and ride bikes
And mine don't do that.
So the ones who grew up in the projects don't even know how to ride a bicycle?
No, they don't.
Larry Sargent and Sherry Wade both made it to the next stage of the application process, which included attending a meeting with some of the buyers.
We might have white neighbors on the 3rd floor, and I live on the 2nd floor, and if they come out and see my children, I want them to know that if they speak, that you'll speak back. You know that about them already. You know what I'm saying? They're not going to be the residents that go, you know, like, don't speak to me. You know?
Yeah, we've already spoken.
Wade seemed a shoo-in.
This is going to be huge.
But her application hit a snag. Her on-again, off-again husband wouldn't pass the drug test, and she knew it. So she found herself in an incredible position. Her husband on one hand, a brand new home on the other, and Candace Howell in the middle. Can you make exceptions in a case like that?
Make exceptions for Sherry and then bring in the person next time that had a serious criminal background. They're difficult choices to make.
Sherry Wade saw the writing on the wall and made a wrenching choice. She and her children would leave her husband behind.
I couldn't keep having it happen to the whole family. It wasn't just affecting him, it affected the whole house.
Larry Sargent was determined not to let drugs stand in his way either. He goes regularly for counseling at the VA hospital now, a commitment that helped win him a spot at Northtown Village. He packed up his things, packed up his son, and left Cabrini Green for the last time. Then, just a 5-minute walk away, he began a new life, the sudden sovereign of a brand new 2-bedroom apartment.
It's your bedroom.
With a bird's eye view.
Yep, just sit right here and just watch it happen. It was, you know, told years ago that one day all these projects are going to be gone. And I just never thought that it'd happen. But it has.
But not everyone will be lucky enough to live in a place like Northtown Village. So far, 36 high-rises are gone. But aside from Northtown Village, construction of new replacement housing has barely begun. And even when it's done, there will be 14,000 fewer public housing apartments than when the demolition began. Peter Holston says it's the biggest hitch in the city's plans. What's going to happen to all those other families who fall through the cracks?
Well, hopefully they won't fall through the cracks, but you're right. I mean, there is a huge need. In Cabrini alone, I believe there's several thousand families left. It's going to be tight. It's going to be really tight.
This is a crisis. Mixed income isn't the answer. It's not going to accommodate. It's a fraction of the need.
The city's been trying to help others find homes outside public housing with mixed results. Some resentment has been directed at Northtown Village. There's been vandalism and a couple of break-ins. But mostly the people who live at Northtown Village are focused on settling in.
Our next-door neighbor moved in about 2 weeks ago with her couple girls, and they're great.
The Tomlinsons say they hope their presence here makes a difference.
There's been this cycle of isolation that's gone on for, 30, 40 years, whatever it is. And my hope is that this breaks that cycle. In 20 years from now, I think everybody will be happy we did this.
Larry Sargent is glad he did it, as we saw when we went to visit him several months after he moved in. He's been working as a maintenance man for the Holston Group. Look at this. And for the first time, he's proud to call his apartment home. Nice things on the wall.
Oh, yeah, I got them from the dollar store. Most everything in here is from the dollar store.
It's still a struggle every day, he says, but he hopes the move will give his son the chance he never had.
I give him everything I got, so he don't have to be raised like I was. He'll get a chance to see another part of life at a young age. Hopefully he can take it and go from there. And don't fall into no snake pit like I did.
Sherry Wade still works hard to make ends meet, but says she's already noticed a change in her children and in herself.
We used to go over people's houses to spend the night. Now they want to come home, and I like that.
And as a mother, how does that make you feel?
Like I'm walking in the right direction.